So I wanted to read what's in here. It's confusing about who wrote this. So if you saw my last video, I talked about this priest that left the Catholic Church because they wanted to take his Bible because he was actually following God instead of them. And so he was like excommunicated. He became a reverend at the Presbyterian Church. Lincoln was his lawyer in Illinois when some Catholic was going after him, claiming slander. So he became friends, even though the historian, many times, I don't know if people picked up on, the historians don't have common sense. It's like they serve wickedness. Like they don't have common sense after hundreds of years of so many people saying the same thing about the Catholic Church. It's like, at what point do you say, is it everybody else that's the problem, or is it that we don't have enough common sense to realize who the problem is? No. So, Lincoln never made any statements against the Catholic Church, okay? But this priest says that he knew that he said that he knew he wasn't just fighting the South during the Civil War, that he was fighting the Pope. But he would have been, because of many of the South was Catholic. Much of the South was Catholic, and the Catholic Church supported slavery. Yeah, I mean that's how much they know Jesus, right? So I'm going to read this. I'm not sure if it's this person up here that is behind this pamphlet that wrote this, or if this was something. It's kind of, but I'm going to read it because it's just eerie, okay? It's just interesting. I shouldn't say eerie. So I do not pretend to be a prophet, but though not a prophet, I see a very dark cloud on our horizon. That dark cloud is coming from Rome. It is filled with tears of blood. It will rise and increase till its flanks will be torn by a flash of lightning, followed by a fearful peal of thunder. Then a cyclone, such as the world has never seen, will pass over the country, spreading ruin and desolation from north to south. After it is over, there will be long days of peace and prosperity. For popery with its Jesuits and endless inquisitions will have been forever swept away from our country. Neither I nor you, but our children will see these things. And then it says that it's this Reverend Charles Chiniquy that said this. And then, which is him, okay? He's the former priest. So even officially, Abraham Lincoln never made any formal vows against the Catholic Church. And then they just, they blame this on, it's just anti-Catholic rhetoric. Again, it's like at some point after hundreds of years, after knowing the Catholic Church tried to kill King James I in England, like at some point, you're just an idiot. You may be a historian with a ton of letters after your name, but like if you're that stupid that you think it's everybody else that's the problem, then, that's just, it's a total lack of common sense completely then. So, it says here that the pamphlet propagated by Charles Chiniquy, a former Catholic priest who became an outspoken critic of the Catholic Church. Chiniquy claimed Lincoln had a dark cloud, or they said Chiniquy fabricated quotations and accusations claiming Lincoln had, quote, a dark cloud coming from Rome, and fought more against the Pope than against the Southern Americans, portraying Catholics as enemies of the Constitution. So you see how, like the media, even AI, it's just programmed to immediately, this is just anti-Catholic, instead of looking at the history of that church, its violence, its torturous acts, its child molestation problem, All of these people from the beginning of our country going back to England, all these wars, all because of the Vatican, everywhere it goes. Like at some point, you're a total moron. I get that, because I have family. My family's Catholic. I can tell them, it's like, they don't hear it. And that's why the media is disgusting, because the media reinforces what the wicked one wants. I guess just the way the world is, huh? So they excommunicated him because he was following God. He was following the Bible, which is typical because, it's not like the Catholic Church is about Jesus. Having been for 50 years in the Church of Rome, Father Chiniquy was well qualified, surely, to judge of its inner workings. I would think so. And he spoke with no uncertain sound. His scathing exposures of the vile practices of this gigantic system of iniquity are unanswerable and ought to make all Protestants worthy of the name strain every effort in the struggle against this mighty foe of humanity. At a time like the present, when many Protestants seem to have become almost oblivious of the priceless boon of religious liberty, which has been won for them by the life's blood of their forefathers, when the heroic deeds of the noble armies of martyrs who perished at the hands of the Church of Rome, rather than submit to its monstrous fallacies, seem to be well nigh forgotten, it is refreshing to read such a clear and unmistakable declaration as that made in the following confession from the preface. This was from the title, Father Chiniquy's Dying Confession. And that's him, yeah. In this book, his Dying Confession, it talks about the Church of Rome and its idolatry. Roman Catholic bishops and priests are obliged to lie themselves every time they explain Scripture. That's what they were doing in England too. Every abomination exists in the Church of Rome. Rome's priests, bishops, and popes have martyred millions, that's for sure. Rome is the enemy of God's law and the freedom of man. It says, this was by Charles Chiniquy too. If there is a thing which is as evident as 2 and 2 make 4, it is that Romanism is the old idolatry of Babylon, Egypt, and Rome under a Christian mask. But this new form of idolatry is so boldly denied by some of the great dignitaries of Rome and so skillfully concealed by others under the spotless robe of Jesus that not only the 2 unsuspecting nominal Protestants, but even the very elect are in danger of being entrapped and deceived. Wow. And again, this was somebody that knew the church well. So do you mean to tell me that none of the historians could use common sense? Really? So just realize when this guy, he said that the Jesuits killed him. And they probably did. Again, hundreds of people that supported him that were in his circle, Lincoln's, that supported it were Jews. When you're the former Roman Empire and your whole life is spent, your whole empire is spent exterminating Jews. Well, then when you come to this country trying to claim Christianity, and everybody and anybody was calling them out because they knew they weren't being persecuted in England. Nobody was ever persecuting them. But there's nothing any president can do because, leaders everywhere have tried. If you run them out, then, you make them, but you have to call it out. They'll try to claim we're being persecuted. But again, if you're the Church of Christ, then you would have insight and you would know how to take responsibility.